You smell that? That's beef. Somebody get Richard Dawson. It's feud time. Welcome to another edition of Top 5 Tuesday, and yes, today we are talking country music feuds. There have been more than a few over the years, people that just don't seem to get along, and today we're going to count down the top 5 feuds in country music history. At number 5, the Outlaws against the Nashville Elite. All went down in the mid-60s. You had a couple of artists, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, who had come to Nashville, were starting to become famous, but felt very boxed in by what Nashville wanted them to do. See, there was a way of doing things to become a country music star, and Nashville had used that same formula very successfully, but for these guys, it just didn't fit, and so they decided to strike out and do things their own way. They left the city, they went to where they felt more comfortable. They started dressing the way they wanted to, acting the way they wanted to, and the outlaw movement was born, and it was an absolute smash success. The Outlaws against the Elite in Nashville, an early feud, but it led to a great movement in country music. That's at number 5. At number 4, Billy Ray Cyrus versus Travis Tritt. This one goes back to the early 90s when Billy Ray burst onto the scene with Achy Breaky Heart. It was a very divisive song when it came out. Half the country music fan base loved it, thought it was fun, it was good for dancing and having a good time. The other half thought, well, this is just an absolute waste of time kind of song, not what country music needs. And Travis Tritt was on that side of the fence. He called the song frivolous and thought it was setting country music back. Now at the CMA Awards that year, it won Single of the Year. So in his acceptance speech, Billy Ray walked up to the mic and said, anybody who doesn't like this song, here's a quarter. Call someone who cares. Shade thrown. That is number 4. At number 3, we've got the war between traditionalists and crossover artists. Now, this war continues to rage to this day, everybody feeling that their brand of country music is better than the others. But this war really came to a head in the mid-70s, and our representatives in this battle are going to be Charlie Rich and John Denver. Now, in the mid-70s, crossover artists were really starting to dominate the scene in country music. If they had pop and country appeal, they were at the top of the charts. Folks like Olivia Newton-John, Ronnie Milsap, Dolly Parton with a lot of crossover appeal at the time, and also in there was John Denver. He was on an absolute roll and would wind up winning Entertainer of the Year at the CMA Awards. That did not sit well with Charlie Rich. Charlie had won the award the year before and was there to present it to the current year's winner. Now, when he went up on stage, he was already a couple of sheets to the wind, having had a few, so whoever decided to let him out on stage, this one's kind of on you. But he went out there to present the award, opened up that envelope to see John Denver's name, and in front of everybody and the TV cameras, pulled out his cigarette lighter, lit the envelope on fire, and sarcastically congratulated the winner. Awkward, to say the least. But the battle between traditionalists and crossover artists, that makes it to number 3. At number 2, the Chicks versus Toby Keith. This one got pretty heated. Now, in the wake of 9/11, an overwhelming wave of patriotism ran over the United States of America. That's where Toby Keith had a huge hit with his song Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. But the Chicks came out into the media and said that that song was very ignorant and didn't really stand for what the United States was supposed to be about. So heated words back and forth in the media, and the Chicks really having the last word in that one, showing up to an award show with these shirts that said FUTK. Subtle. Their rivalry is at number 2. Number 1 feud in country music, Porter Wagoner versus Dolly Parton. Now, these two, of course, intertwined in the early portion of Dolly's career as she joined the Porter Wagoner show, but she had a voice that could not be denied. And as the years rolled on, she started to realize that maybe her talent was bigger than the Porter Wagoner show, and she decided to go off on her own and start a solo career. Well, Porter didn't take too well to her leaving his show. Obviously, she was a big part of the show's success, so he sued her for breach of contract and $3 million back in 1979. That led to a court battle, and a lot of people feeling like Porter and Dolly would just never get on the same page again. Dolly, as a matter of fact, writing one of her biggest hits, I Will Always Love You, in memory of her business relationship with Porter Wagoner, saying very much, I've got to leave, but don't worry, I will always love you. It turned into a massive hit for her, a huge hit for Whitney Houston as well, and continues to be one of the premier Dolly Parton songs, but all coming from her feud with Porter Wagoner. Now, thankfully, the two of them were able to reunite in the late 80s and become friends once again, and Dolly was actually bedside when Porter passed away in 2007. So thankfully, those two made nice, but it was pretty heated for a while back in the early 80s. Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton, the number 1 feud in country music history. That's this week's Top 5. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again next week with more.